Okay, good evening and welcome back to this evening session on Skillathon. Yesterday, we were discussing about critical thinking, which is nothing but bringing towards or moving towards one point. In the previous classes, we had seen about creative thinking and curiosity, because these three C's becomes the core three C's of problem solving. Let's move forward and today look at convergent thinking. And in that, we had discussed about problem solving tools. The moment we talk about critical thinking, it is all about facts, objective judgment, processes, logic analysis. That is what you keep doing. It's kind of a critique, right? So we were seeing that there are different tools that help us to build our critical thinking ability. We started with 5 technique. I hope you have completed the exercise, pros, cons, fix, and then matrix. These were the three tools that we discussed yesterday. Incredibly powerful yet simple. Today we are going to talk about testing, first principle, a quick view on brainstorming, and six thinking hat and cause and effect diagram. Each of these is a big uh, detail you can go into it, but due to the paucity of time, I'm covering few elements that are good to start off. But if you are really interested in any specific tool, you need to go deeper, apply, again learn. This is the continuous cycle that keeps happening. So let's look at the hypothesis testing today, right? So what is the hypothesis? Hypothesis is nothing but a declarative statement that has not yet been established as true. It is a statement made by an individual who is working on a specific project or a problem, but he makes a statement basis his own understanding, but it is not yet established as true. It is a plausible reason, a possible reason, which could have caused the problem, but we are not exactly sure that is the reason. I think it's a beautiful interpretation of hypothesis. A statement is being made. It could be a possible reason for that particular problem, but we are exactly not sure is that the problem. So we need to test the hypothesis. That is why hypothesis testing. Let's take a simple example. There is a bakery, a very old bakery, which has been doing well, and suddenly they are seeing that over the last 1 week, the bread is overbaked and the customers are complaining. Initially, they overlooked it, but this complaint is becoming quite severe and the reputation of the bakery is at stake. Now, what could be the possible hypothesis? Right? Wrong temperature and timing setting. Somebody is not setting the temperature in the right way. Probably the equipment is malfunctioning. There is a fluctuation in the gas supply because of which the temperatures are going up and down. Or could there be a sabotage by an employee who is not happy? Possible? Now, this is a hypothesis. The management is working on this. Now, this needs to be tested. It needs to be proved. Similarly, IT department is saying that the important data on a computer is getting deleted. Is there a sabotage by anybody having access to the computer? A new virus or a power failure or a high current surge could be the reason. Now, typically a four-step to hypothesis testing. First of all, write the hypothesis. What is your hypothesis? How are you going to analyze the hypothesis? And then when you're analyzing, you'll be collecting a lot of data. Data is very important. Narayan Murthy, former CEO of Infosys, said it beautifully. In God we believe, rest of you come with data. Don't just come here and throw your own understanding and interpret the results, right? Now, this is a four-step of hypothesis testing. Now, as I told you, it's a very, very vast topic. I will share these two beautiful links that are available on Khan Academy on hypothesis testing. If you're interested in learning more about it, and these are the links, but this is a powerful tool to build your problem solving ability more from the critical thinking perspective. Now, let's go to the next principle, the next tool in problem solving, the first principles thinking. Of late, it has been made immensely popular because of this man, right? A man who believes he is able to solve problems, build product, build great companies, successful companies, because he follows the first principle thinking. Obviously, there need to be some amount of truth in it. Otherwise, within a short span of time, he has become the most richest man in this world and building some products like Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company, OpenAI, and Neuralink must be incredibly, insanely doing things right. Okay, so Elon Musk really revealed that his success is based on a special way of solving a problem called first principle thinking. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos, couple of pointers on first principle thinking. Though he makes it look so simple, if this is method is the so easiest one, then why isn't all the entrepreneur or problem solvers not able to think and solve problems, isn't it? So all these leaders makes it look incredibly simple, but in reality may not be so. If you want to solve the problem that is unique ways, first principle thinking is a strategy that works for the world's most creative people, successful entrepreneurs. What do you mean by first principle? An absolute truth that doesn't have to be explained by another. Now, many a times when you're solving a problem, you come out with some hypothesis, you come out with some statements, you come out with some observation, you come with some interpretation. But we need to explain that again. For example, let's say there is a water problem in Bangalore. One of the hypotheses is rampant urbanization. Does that mean that wherever there has been a rampant urbanization, there has been a water problem? We don't know. Maybe, may not be. Is that the only reason that is for the cause of it? If there was no urbanization, do you think Bangalore would have had enough water? Or is all the cities which has not got urbanized, have they not got into water problem? The second is we can say that this increased boring activity that we have done in Bangalore. Because of that, the water table has got depleted. Is that the reason? Or the lack of green cover, is that the reason? So many a times what happens is we need to further explain it with another statement or another analysis. But first principle is an absolute truth that doesn't have to be explained by another. That is why it's called as a first principle. So let's watch this video. Quick check, you're able to hear me, see this video on the screen. A quick check. Okay, fantastic. So let's go ahead and watch this video. And I want you to listen carefully and watch this.
This video is made possible by the Great Courses Plus. Click the link in the description to get your free trial. In the previous video, we discussed the idea of power and created a framework for thinking about it. I claimed that someone needed two fundamental ingredients to be powerful: a true understanding of the world and the resources to shape it. As promised, we're going to go over what I left out of the last video, which is how to obtain a truer understanding of the world. I believe this essay will shine light on the fact that some ways of thinking are more useful than others. Out of all the essays that I've ever written, this one is the most important. Today we'll be discussing how to think from first principles. First principles are the fundamental building blocks of an idea. They're the most indivisible part that we know to be true and that we use to build more complex thoughts. I know this sounds a little abstract right now, but let me give you some history, an analogy, and an example. Thinking from first principles isn't a new or groundbreaking idea. In fact, it's been the dominant mode of thinking among all great scientists and philosophers for a while now. It's probably the single most consistent factor among great thinkers. Although there have been many practitioners of this way of thinking, I'd like to zoom in on one that you may have heard about: Aristotle. He was a prolific organizer who believed that everything could be divided into categories and subcategories. The smallest subcategory in any domain is what we would call a first principle. He was also one of the earliest empiricists that we know about. An empiricist is someone who believes that all knowledge is achieved through experience. As one of the earliest major contributors to the study of biology, it makes sense that Aristotle was a first principles thinker. He would dissect animals to gain real-world knowledge and then use his capacity for reason to organize and categorize the information. This cycle of seeking knowledge through experience and using reason to give it structure is how one comes to know the first principles of a subject. Aristotle believed that we couldn't possess true knowledge unless we understood these principles. Now that you have a slight understanding of the history, let me give you an analogy about thinking from first principles. Think of your knowledge in a specific domain as a tree. Someone who thinks from first principles, an unconventional thinker, will understand that body of knowledge from the fruit all the way down to the root. The fruit is what we see in front of us. It's the unearned knowledge that we can obtain, experience, and repeat right away. We can look at an apple tree, say that it's just a thing that produces apples, and call it a day. It's a very shallow understanding of the tree, but it's not untrue. On the other hand, a first principles thinker will want to know how this creation really came to be. They'll see that the apple is connected to a branch, and every branch is a subset of a greater whole called a trunk. Finally, they'll see that the root is the most fundamental part of the tree, which gives rise to the fruit. They've gathered multiple pieces of information about the tree through experience, but they've also organized the pieces of information in relation to each other. These free-floating facts have been transformed into an organized body of knowledge. The conventional thinker will believe that they can put the apple seeds anywhere and grow delicious apples. They lack true understanding. Upon examining the roots, the first principles thinker will see that a delicious fruit starts with good soil. They have a nuanced understanding. The conventional thinker is the guy at the cocktail party who has all of the interesting facts. His knowledge consists solely of fruit that he can display. On the contrary, the unconventional thinker is consistently focused on building trees of knowledge. Like Aristotle, he or she goes back and forth between experience and reason to build an organized and structured body of knowledge. A tree planted in good soil will have strong and healthy roots and thus produce delicious fruit. Likewise, an idea that blooms from true and beautiful first principles will itself be beautiful and true. Naturally, if the simple parts that make up a complex whole are good and true, then the complex whole must be good and true as well. This is important because, as we discussed in the last video, a true understanding of the world is necessary to obtain power. Any complex beliefs we hold can only be true if the parts that make them up are true. To make this more concrete, let's think about the process of writing an essay from first principles. A well-written essay is like a delicious fruit. It's enjoyable to consume and difficult to produce without understanding its fundamentals. We can identify the fundamentals by breaking it down into its component parts. An essay is a collection of paragraphs. Well, a paragraph is a collection of sentences. A sentence is a collection of words, and words are a collection of letters, and letters are the fundamental building blocks of an essay. Once the components of an essay are understood, we can look at improving each one from the simplest to the complex. If we can make each individual component remarkable, then the totality should be remarkable, and that is the art of first principles thinking. Now let's talk about the benefits. There are several benefits that come from understanding an idea down to its fundamental components. The first is innovation. Once you understand the fundamentals of an idea, you can rearrange them, change them, or put them together differently to create a new idea or a product. In our writing example, we could have created another layer above the essay. We could call a collection of essays a book. We've now invented something new. The second benefit is optimization. A fundamental component can be changed in order to improve an idea or a product. For example, once we knew the fundamental components of the essay, we could put each of them under scrutiny to see how each component could be its best. But without knowing these components, it's impossible to make any sort of improvement. The third benefit is integration. Once you understand the foundational components of an idea, it becomes a lot easier to integrate new knowledge into your understanding. For example, once you know how to write letters, it becomes easier to make words. Once you know how to write words, you can make sentences. Once you can make sentences, you can make paragraphs, then essays, then books, then entire libraries. And then the final benefit is dissemination. Understanding the foundational components of an idea makes it easier to transfer that complex idea to another person. You can start with the simplest component and build up the idea from there. This is exactly what we try to do in schools. We teach kids how to write the alphabet, then words, and so on. First principle thinkers are better teachers because they can determine the exact level where a student's understanding falls apart. So you see the benefits, but how can someone become a first principles thinker? Thinking from first principles is simple, but not easy. I just have one piece of actionable advice, and it's inspired by Aristotle. Create hierarchies, like what we did with the essay example. Most ideas are nested inside or outside one another, and it's the job of a first principles thinker to map out how these ideas are linked. As Aristotle, like all empiricists would say, knowledge begins with experience. The world is presenting fruit all around you, amazing and complex acts of creation. Discovering the roots of these creations starts with questions such as why or how. The ultimate truth seeker must not be satisfied with fruit, yet they realize that the search for roots is never ending. Once they've reduced an idea down to the smallest fundamentals that they can conceive of, they have arrived at the first principles. These fundamentals can be used to innovate, optimize, learn more complex ideas, or to teach others. One of the best ways to discover these fundamentals is by actually writing down and organizing the information in a subject that you're interested in by using a hierarchy or a mind map like how we did with the essay. So that concludes my little mini-series on power. I put forth a framework for power in the last video and discussed the idea of being valuable to obtain it. In this video, I put forth a common mode of thought among great thinkers. In the next video, I plan to discuss something that might catch you by surprise: the danger of being a first principles thinker.
Okay, he also gives you the flip side, and that one is something that you can catch up later.
This
Okay,
video is made possible
First principle thinking is a basic assumption that cannot be deduced any further. Right? Over 2000 years ago, Aristotle defined a first principle as the first basis from which the thing is unknown. The same way example he gave you, right? If you want to write a good paragraph, you should write good sentences. If you want to write proper sentences, you must be able to build words. And for the words, the unit is letters. Similarly, the first principle thinking, what he's talking about is, a molecule, an atom, a nucleus, proton, and a quark. So the boiling problems down to the most fundamental truth. And Albert Einstein talks about, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution. So the practical ways to use first principle thinking in everyday life. I'll share this as an evening task that you can watch how it all began by Elon Musk, so that you can watch it a little later when I complete the session. Okay. So, how Elon Musk solves any of his problems in only 5 steps? Identify your goal. Let's say one of the goal is to, let's take Masai School itself and apply first principle thinking. Our goal is to reduce the skill gap. In other ways, increase the skillability and the employability quotient of the individual students so that they can get meaningfully employed. That is our goal. Okay, our goal is to find meaning. So list the obstacles. Let's say that, okay, let's make it even further. What is our goal? Our goal is to make our students successful. It's an outcome driven school. So we want our student to be successful so that they get a dream job, a dream salary in a dream company. That is our goal. Now, what are the obstacles? The first obstacle is the skills. Now, talking about skills, we can talk about technical skills. We can talk about math and logic as a skill. We can talk about English as a skill. Then we can also talk about communication as a skill or a soft skills. Then we can talk about not just the skill. What about the mindset? Do they have the requisite mindset that is required to be a competent programmer? Then we can have obstacles, something like mindset of resilience, mindset of proactiveness, mindset of all these things can be listed. Then question these obstacles. It is not about just listing the obstacles. I want to question these obstacles. Why do you think that it needs to have a resilient mindset to be a competent programmer? Right? Why is it he should be proactive? Why should he be able to manage time? Why should he have a remote working capability? Why should he know data structures and algorithm? Why should he be able to do virtual presentation? Now let's break that obstacle down. Let's say one of the obstacles is remote working. Now I am going to break that obstacle down. Why is he not able to do remote working? Because he's not able to collaborate remotely. Why is he not able to collaborate remotely? Maybe he does not know how to communicate remotely, and maybe that person does not have the requisite tools to collaborate well. Break down that obstacle. Now find out how do we build this capability. Keep on reiterating so that you can solve the problem. So that is how Elon Musk does it. Anyone else can do it. But the question is, have you identified that goal and have you identified the obstacles? And have you really come to a conclusion that this is an obstacle and how do you overcome that obstacle? That's what the one of the first principle technique is do. Okay, and he gives an analogy here. One bit of advice: it is important to view a knowledge as a sort of semantic tree. Make sure you understand the fundamental principle, that is the trunk, the branch, before you get into the leaves or the details. There's nothing them to hang on to it. Okay, that is the incredibly powerful tool called the first principles thinking. I have given an overview. I'll give you some more self-reading additional resources for you to get deeper and deeper and deeper. 5 technique, pros cons fix, matrix, hypothesis testing, and first principle. Can you give me quickly a confirmation on the chat box so far which technique for you looks very exciting and you want to apply it? Use your chat box and please type of the 5 which one do you think you want to use it and you find it exciting. First principle. Okay. Kundan says all. Yes, you must learn all. Depending on the situation you can use it. Some things are very simple. You can do it with 5 why or a pros cons. You need not use a first principle. And a first principle is typically applied to problems which are very complex in nature. All. What about the others? I have got only five responses. Harshad is saying hypothesis testing. Ritu is saying all. Okay. Some more responses, please. I have close to 40 students today. Problem. Okay. Problem solving. Which one? Oh, we have seen five tool. What does a tool does? A tool improves the efficiency and effectiveness. Zoom is a tool, right? Keyboard is a tool. What do we do with that tool? Pros cons, says Saurabh. 5 I says Ravi. Okay, couple of more responses before we move forward. Okay, first principle says Varsha. Good enough. So let's move to the next problem solving tool. I'm going to talk about brainstorming, and I will also talk about six thinking hats and cause and effect diagram. Now, cause and effect diagram is a very interesting one, and I have used it in my previous problem solving approaches as recent as a month back. It is called as a cause and an effect or a fishbone principle, or also called as an Ishikawa principle. The background is something like this. It was proposed by a professor in Tokyo University, Professor Ishikawa, okay, from the Tokyo University. What he did was, this diagram resembles the skeleton of a fish. As you all know, that Japanese love fish and rice. For them, it is integral part of their survival or existence, and they understand this fish so well. So the diagram resembles the skeleton of the fish, and the head resembles the problem statement. Okay, so helps to categorize all possible causes of a specific problem and helps us to identify the reason for the process not working, and a visual tool for brainstorming. Okay, before getting into the brainstorming, if you're able to get this a pictorial representation of the cause and causes for this problem, you'll be able to do it better. Okay, let's take this fantastic simple example. Now here is the HR is saying that the employees are always coming late to the office. Okay, late to work. Let's look at the cause and effect diagram, or a fishbone diagram. He says there could be the six large reasons why employees could be coming late to work: people related, method related, measurement related, machine related, environment related, or a material related. Typical Japanese, this concept became very popular in 1970 when there was a quality revolution happening in Japan. Companies like Toyota, Hitachi, Mitsubishi, all of them were getting into big time to find out really the root cause of the problem so that they can fix it. People, maybe this individual have children at home, or he's demotivated, extremely tired by working late night, or simply he could be a lazy person. This could be one set of reason why he is coming late. Possible? So he has identified this under people. The second reason is a method. Maybe the alarm clock didn't work, the walking time is too long, or the route to work is very packed, or distance to work is very far away. Right? Imagine if somebody he wants living in Electronic City in Bangalore, if you're familiar with Bangalore, and he needs to work in Manyata Tech Park, which is near Hebal. The distance is 30 kilometers, but it's a packed with traffic. In spite of the best efforts, he's likely to come late. Or simply it could be the measurement. Am I measured coming on time? Is there a bonus? Is there a clocking in? Is there an incentive? Or simply the children is late for school? Machine, his coffee machine didn't work, the car broke down, the train got delayed, or the alarm clock didn't work. Look at the way in which they're just breaking it down, late for work, or simply the environment condition which is beyond his control. Traffic jam, fog in Delhi, I'm sure. Today I saw a picture, Gurgaon in the morning, and this picture was taken from a high-rise building. It looks that the entire building is in clouds. Or it could be simply the rains in monsoon in Mumbai. Come on, let's have a heart to the Mumbaikars. When it rains in Mumbai during monsoon, it pours, but still we see Mumbaikars wearing. I was amazed by the Mumbaikars going to work in monsoon. I never visited Mumbai in monsoon till 7 8 years back. I knew Mumbaikars work hard. For them, travel is integral part of their existence. And I landed in one of the time when the monsoon was at its peak, and I just came out of the airport, and I was going in a car, and I could see people on my left and right going in their bikes and wearing the raincoats, and it didn't stop them from going to work. Imagine if that kind of a rain is in Bangalore, we would never venture out, right? Saying that it's raining, so I have my right to do that. So every city has its own culture and the way they work. And Mumbai, I think, traveling distance, they never complain. Of course, it could be holiday. So he's just come back from holiday, or the holiday season all around. Imagine we were working yesterday on a Shankranti or a Pongal. I was just thinking what could be the mood in most of the employees or the students. Everyone is celebrating. Everyone is doing. Here is Masai school and their student doing 996 and Rupul doing his scrum. Or simply the could be the kind of food you have had, the clothes that you're wearing, or the electricity and the petrol not available. All these are there. Are you able to get what I'm looking at, friends? Can you give me a quick confirmation that you are in sync with what I'm explaining so far? Because I want you to understand this principle well. Right now, imagine if we are discussing randomly without using this structure. Some people would have discussed about he's late because he has to drop children to his work. Somebody says it may rain. Somebody says he's lazy. Now here we have a clear process demarcation, and let's look at how do we solve each one of them in detail. That's Ishikawa principle for you. I'm going to share an article around published by ResearchGate, a fishbone diagram for software detects. This is how it looks like. A company was saying a lot of software detects is coming up. Now they've broken it down into largely these areas. Is it because of human errors, or is it because of requirement errors, design errors, maintenance, or is it because of testing or coding errors? And each one of them, they've broken it down into further. Let's say it's because of testing, undiscovered errors, incomplete or erroneous testing, or a design errors, requirement errors. And this way, it helps them to crack the whole thing. The steps for constructing cause and effect diagram: identify the problem, which is the head of the fish, and then create that problem box, and then cause and contributing and determining the root. Incredibly powerful. And imagine that once you have this, the kind of brainstorming that you can have to solve that problem is unprecedented. I know each of you are going to become leaders in your company wherever you're joining. And if you're able to structure the conversation in this way, your own confidence goes up. The value you bring to that meeting will be at a next level rather than just going here and there randomly. So during the brainstorming session, one thing that you can all apply is a method called Six Thinking Hat. The proponent of Six Thinking Hat is by Edward de Bono. Edward de Bono, as I told you, is a father of lateral thinking, and he is an expert in brain training, and he has an institute called de Bono, and he came up with this concept called parallel thinking, six thinking hats, and six hats colors were different: yellow, blue, red, white, black, green, and each hat represent one way of thinking, so that all of us go in that direction, so that the discussions are meaningful, and then we can take a call whether this is what we are going to look at it. Each one of us wear one hat at a time. It's a metamorphical, the color is all about. Otherwise, this is how every one of us discusses a problem, like six blind men. You remember, right? The story goes the way they describe an elephant. Somebody looks at the trunk and says it is a spear, and somebody looks at the entire trunk and says spear, and this he sees the tooth, he says is a snake, and somebody looks at the entire looks at the leg and says it's a tree, or someone look at the body and says wall and a fan and a rope. To avoid this, he says that we can use the six thinking hats. Uh, at the moment, everyone is looking in the same direction. Each thinker or a participant put forward his or her thought in the same direction, helps us to analyze issues, better discussions, generate ideas. Constructive versus argumentative, productive meetings can happen, and it is also time saving. And most importantly, it removes the ego and much more. At any moment during the discussion, everyone is looking in the same direction. Now, let us look at these six hats. And normally, each individual wear one or two hats prominently. White hat is all about facts. Red is all about emotions. Black is all about caution. Yellow hat is all about optimism. Green hat is all about creativity, and blue is all about organization. Okay. Now, let's look at some of these hats, and I'll explain to you in the context of Masai School when we were planning whether it should be an online or an offline. Okay, let's do a discussion around an online or an offline method of campus. It should be a campus or it should be an online. Now, if someone is wearing an yellow hat, all of us, we are going to talk about what are all the good points, what are the benefits, why this idea will work, why is it worth doing, how it will help us, why can it be done. It's all about yellow. Yellow is sunshine, optimism, logical, positive view of things, feasibility, and opportunity. Now, this is what all of us will discuss in the same time. Black hat, it is, remember what is black hat? Black hat is all about what did we say? It's all about caution. And this person will ask these questions. Is it true? Will it work? What are the weakness? What is wrong with it? Caution, judgment, assessment, logic, evidence, consequences, weaknesses if things will work. Red hat, it's all about the feeling. How do I feel right now? How cold or warm do I feel about it? How am I reacting to this? Intuition, feelings, hunches, no need to justify the feeling. White hat, what information or facts do we know? What information is missing? What is it that we have? Let's examine the facts and figures. Remember, all of us are going in one direction. Green hat, what are possible ways to creativity? It's all about creativity to solve this problem, right? New ideas, suggestions, alternatives. What have we done so far? What do we do next? What decision have we reached? Controlled orchestra, conductor, etc., etc. So, white hat, data, facts, information. On the opposite side, red hat, feeling, hunches, instinct, and intuition. Black hat, difficulty, potential problem, why they don't work. Blue hat manages the process. If you look at it, creative thinking and critical thinking are on the both the sides. This side is largely creative. This side is all about critical thinking. So this way, what happens is they are able to have a structured discussion and focus. I've given an overview. It is not as that simple as what we do. Ability to steer is very important. So, basis the Ishikawa diagram and the six hat thinking, a brainstorming can be done. This is quite popular in the tech industry. They keep saying, let's brainstorm and come out with a problem. While brainstorming, you can use both critical thinking and a creative thinking tool, and you can do it in a very, very interesting way. So let's just couple of things before we conclude on this entire problem solving piece, and also on the critical thinking, right? So problem solving calls for a range of skills. Otherwise, it would have been very easy. All of us can be good problem solvers, and it requires some qualities which are more than just applying problem solving, right? So it requires a process skill. It requires personal quality of the guy who's solving the problem, and interpersonal skills. Remember, friends, you're not solving problem in isolation. In reality, you're solving problem along with people. And if you lack interpersonal skill, you're not able to communicate, collaborate, cooperate. Your ego comes in very way, and then these would not help in solving the problem. So process skill, continuously clarifying, exploring, planning, implementation, checking, reflecting, and reviewing. Personal qualities, things like confidence, persistence, reliability, openness to feedback, willingness to learn. All these will help. Interpersonal skill, as I told you, all those C's are extremely important. So, friends, it is not about I do only critical thinking or a creative thinking. A combination of both, depending upon the situation, you'll be able to become a great problem solver. And the bottom of it is curiosity. I'm very curious to solve problem. I analyze the problem. Imaginatively, I think about solution. Come again, I plan a solution. Imagine applying that solution in a different way. I evaluate the solution critically, improve the solution creatively, and implement the solution. And this is a benign cycle, friends. You'll keep on doing it. As you keep solving the problem, the benchmarks keeps on moving it. And that is how the entire problem solving process is very enjoyable. Just to give you an example, I will share this link with you. There is an online forum where in which you can assess yourself to know whether you are a creative or a critical heavy guy. And I did my own exercise. I'm an 80% critical thinking and a 64% creative thinking application is there. It is not 80 plus 20, it can be depending upon the situation. So largely I'm a critical thinker, which I agree completely. That is what I'm all about. So, depending on the problem that we often use, both creative and divergent thinking can be very useful. So, combination of this leads to a decision making, and decision must lead to actions. So, sometime during next week, after you come back from your Monday assessment and evaluation, we will talk about a new topic altogether, and I'll try to cover decision making as a topic that will help you to implement it. Of course, the magic factor for any problem solving is attitude. Problem can also be opportunities. They allow you to see things differently and do things in a different way, perhaps to make a fresh start. Problems are not stop signs, they are guidelines. How to successfully to get to a solution, having the right mindset. So I'm going to talk about some mindset, and I'm going to give you a very interesting story, again a Japanese fish story, and I will request a volunteer to read that story in a moment. Most important while solving a problem, friends, ability to cope up with unfamiliar situation, right? So if you are not able to cope up, you run away or you continue to do what you were doing before. And if you have curiosity and persistence, and you will keep finding a solution to a problem, and that cycle is benign. I've already talked about it. Problems plus thinking. Without problems, there is no learning and growing. So develop a solution oriented mindset and be a problem solver today and every day. Learn to solve problems quickly. With good problem solving skills, you will go through life with less struggle. So, almost coming to an end of this incredibly powerful skill that we want to build in our Masai School student is problem solving. And now is a time that's talking about a Japanese fish story. So, can I have a volunteer from this group who can unmute and read this story? I'm going to give you the script here, and I want you to read it out as though you are telling a storytelling to your friends. Can I have a volunteer, please? You need to unmute and start. Yes, please. Who's going to do this? Yes. Can I have a volunteer? Okay, then I'm going to pick names. Can I have Varsha? Varsha, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, fantastic. Varsha, you're going to read what you see on the screen and read it with a lot of emotion. Okay? Start.
Okay. The Japanese have always loved fresh fish, but the waters close to Japan have not held many fish for decades.
Okay?
So the
Yes.
fisherman,
Go
so
ahead.
the fisherman had to go further out to see the catch their supply of fish. The fishing boats got bigger and bigger. The further the fisherman went, the longer it took to bring it in the fish. If the return trip took more than time, the fish were not fresh and they lost their fresh taste.
Thank you. Can I have Ravi Solanki reading the next paragraph?
To solve this problem, fishing companies installed freezers on their boats. They would catch the fish and at sea, freeze them at sea, and freezers also allowed the boat to go further and stay longer. However, Japanese could taste the difference between the fresh and the frozen. They did not like the frozen fish.
Continue.
Also, the frozen fish brought a lower price. So fishing companies installed the fish tank. They would catch the fish and stuff them in the tank fin to fin. After a little thrashing around, the fish stopped moving. They were tired and dull, but alive. Unfortunately, the Japanese could still taste the difference. Because the fish do not move for the day, they lost their fresh fish taste. Japanese preferred the living taste of the fish, not sluggish fish. So how did Japanese fishing companies solve this problem? How did they get tasting fish to Japan? To keep the fish tasting fresh, the Japanese fishing companies added a small shark to the tank that the fish were kept in. The shark, of course, eat a few fish, but most of the fish were alive in a very living state due to the fact that the fish are challenged. Moral of the story: some of us are living like fish that have been caught. We give it too easily and we are not challenged. Some of us could use a shark in our life. Consider a new challenge and problem in our life as a shark. The challenge and the problem can keep us moving forward.
Motivated and moving
Motivated and moving
forward.
forward.
Let me read the last
Without
para.
challenge,
Yes, without challenges, we can become complacent, find life boring, and become inactive. Challenges in our life can keep us moving forward. So, friends, don't get worried about problems. There is a solution there. The thing is, you need to figure it out. All problems are solvable. But the most important thing is you make an attempt with the right mindset and with the kind of skills that you have, critical thinking and creative thinking. I think you can solve a problem, right? So most of the problems are solvable at our end. So knowledge without application is like a book that is never read. We have spent good amount of time in problem solving, right? We started with defining what is a problem. Two kinds of problem. One is diagnostic problem, other one is a design problem. We said to do a problem solving well, we need to look at the three C's: curiosity, creative, and critical thinking. Obviously, we need to look at thinking and analyzing and decision making ability to get these things done. We looked at curiosity in detail. How can you and me as an individual can build curiosity? As a child, we are curious. As we become adults, we lose that edge. Then we moved on to creative thinking. Is it only few people can be creative? No, all of us can be creative. How can one build creativity in whatever things that we are doing? And then we spend a substantial amount of time on critical thinking. I shared with you tools that will help you to solve problems in a creative way, critical way. 5I technique, pros cons fix, matrix, hypothesis testing, first principle, Ishikawa diagram. Then we also looked at brainstorming and six thinking hats. So I've given you a lot of tools, a lot of inputs in the last 4 or 5 sessions and problem solving. This is fundamental if you want to become a good programmer. Now, how do you apply this into your field? It is, if you understand this concept, it is industry agnostic, domain agnostic. You take these concepts, whatever we thought, use these tools and apply into your problem solving and see the magic happening over a period of time. Sometime back, I ran a poll which tool you are likely to use. Each tool has its own significance. Each tool has its own plus and minus in terms of both usability and the simplicity, right? Depending upon the situation and in your own understanding of the tool, you'll do. But start with simple tools like 5Y, pros cons fix, Ishikawa principle. Slowly you keep doing it, you will have a pattern to solve a problem. And then you will see that if you understand first principle approach and you say that I've applied first principle approach to solve this, then the way you come across is at a different level altogether. Okay, so most people readily accept the principle but resist its practice. But I don't want the student at Masai School to be there. I expect you to do it, and maybe one day you connect with my LinkedIn and you tell me, Yogesh, you told me something about it a few months or years ago. I use this technique, and today I'm finding it extremely useful in my day-to-day at work. So I wish you good luck, and I want all of you to use this technique. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with the video link that I spoke about it on Elon Musk. And wish you good luck. And we will connect on Monday to talk about the next, not Monday, we'll connect on Tuesday, right? Monday, you have assessment and we'll take it forward. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good evening and a good weekend. Thank you so much.